Hello and welcome to a presentation on the nose and paranasal sinuses. In this presentation we will be covering the boundaries of the nasal cavity, the regions of the nasal cavity, the conchae, the meatai, paranasal sinuses and drainage of those sinuses. The nasal cavity can be divided into left and right by the nasal septum, which is in the midline. The nasal cavity is entered anteriorly through the nares and it opens posteriorly into the nasopharynx through the choanal. Let's have a look at the nasal cavity boundaries. The horizontal floor is formed by the palatine process of the maxilla and the horizontal plate of the palatine bone. The medial wall is formed by the septum, the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid bone and the vomer. Continuing with the boundaries, the lateral wall is formed by the ethmoid and maxillary sinuses, along with the conchae, and the roof is formed by the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. The nasal cavity can be split into different regions which are indicated in the diagram. The nasal vestibule is just internal to the nares. The respiratory region has a rich neurovascular supply, is lined by respiratory epithelium and has lots of mucus cells, and then we have the olfactory region, which is lined by olfactory epithelium and contains olfactory. The lateral wall of the nasal cavity has conchae. The three conchae are the superior and middle, which come from the ethmoid bone, and the inferior concha, which is a separate bone in its own right. The conchae increase the surface area between the tissues and air, and they project inferior medially across the nasal cavity. The conchae divide the nasal cavity into four air channels. These are the sphenoethmoidal recess, the superior, middle, and inferior meatus. The lateral wall also contains the opening of the nasolacrimal duct and also contains the openings of the paranasal sinuses which drain into the nasal cavity. There are four paired paranasal sinuses: frontal, ethmoid, sphenoid, and maxillary, which relate to the bone in which they are in. They develop as outgrowths of the nasal cavities and erode into the surrounding bones. They are lined by respiratory mucosa. Let's have a look at the drainage of these paranasal sinuses. The frontal sinus drains into the middle meatus via the frontonasal duct. The ethmoid sinus has three groups of air cells. The anterior and middle drain into the middle meatus, whereas the posterior drains into the superior meatus. As these sinuses are air-filled, they can be imaged using X-rays. Have a look at this X-ray on the right and see which paranasal sinuses you can identify. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video on the nose and paranasal sinuses.
Created using Powtoon.